Okay, welcome back. My video last night got cut off. I had my laptop down here with the desktop, and I went to click. I was thinking I was clicking the laptop to play the end of that video, but I ended up clicking the mouse, which stopped the video recording. Anyway, I wasn't worrying about it. But anyway, I was just going to record the last part of waxsleeptoe's second video, where he says, if you want to know if the King James Bible is God's Word, then just read it. Again, it just ignores, my statements that I do not deny the King James Bible as being God's Word. What I deny and what I refuse to accept is that it is God's only Word. Anyway, he made a comment also on the last video before I get to video 3, saying that I cited Jesuit sources without blinking an eye or something. What was he talking about? What Jesuit source was he referring to? He didn't say. Video 3, he says that I made the statement that doctrinally the King James Bible is no different than any of the new translations. And of course I always take exception to the New World Translation, because the Watchtower Society is a cult and is not Christian. It's anti-gospel, and so they deliberately did not translate their Greek Bible correctly. They refused to. Anyway, that's a whole nother subject matter. I've done a lot of research with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I know waxsleeptoe was a former Jehovah's Witness, but anyway, that's a whole different topic. But anyway, and then he made the statement. He said that the scholars that I reference, they don't think that they do think there's a doctrinal difference between the New Age and the he calls it New Age. I don't. New translations and the King James. But again, where's the documentation for that? If you read any of the works that's by the editors of these new translations, there's nothing diabolical in those. The prefaces to all the new translations, and when you read it in the Bible in the first part, there's nothing ungodly or diabolical mentioned there. So I don't know what he's talking about when he makes that statement. Number 2, he said that I said the King James is not pure. I would say that about any translation, because when you're going from one language to another, you're not going to be able to exactly transmit what's there. If we say it's raining cats and dogs outside, and you try to translate that into Japanese or some other language, you're not going to be able to do it literally. If you do, they're not going to understand what you're saying. It's just an example. Let's see. He said that I attack King James only people and not King James only. It's this whole belief that the King James is the only one, and it's perpetrated by people. My whole video series was on this booklet here. Because like I said, King James Bible is the Bible. Let's see. He had problems with my saying that there's 4 families, because all the King James only advocates, they want to boil the manuscript families down to 2. But if you look in any textual criticism work that's done by textual critics, people who specialize in that area, they always talk about the 4. And then he made comment talking about Origen's Septuagint, and he said that Jerome said that it was filled with Alexandrian cult influence. I have a hard time picturing Jerome using those words, Alexandrian cult influence. So again, where's the citation for that? If he's going to criticize me for throwing out opinions as fact without documentation, then be consistent and do that yourself. Let's see. Made some comment about me and my phoenixes. I've never said anything about a phoenix. Number 6, dealing with the whole Antioch versus Alexandria. He says, what is it? This didn't have anything to do with the King James Bible, but it's brought up in King James only materials. This very book that I was addressing, when he talks about the Alexandria and Antioch manuscripts, and he goes over, and then the very next section he's talking about Egypt and Alexandria, because what he's trying to prove is that the Bible talks negatively about Egypt and positively about Antioch. And so somehow or another that's supposed to prove the validity of the Byzantine manuscripts. So I was dealing with that, and was pointing out, how ridiculous that is to make those kind of general assumptions. And I found in my history book from when I had church history, Christianity Through the Centuries by Earl Carnes, since you seem to want to see my sources for things. I took this class like 4 or 5 years ago, and there's a statement in here when it's dealing with the whole Athanasius and Arius and the creeds that came up with that and everything. There's a statement here and it's when this whole debate about the nature of Christ and his humanity, his deity. And where the statement says, in general, those theologians linked with Alexandria emphasize the deity of Christ. Those linked with Antioch emphasize his humanity at the expense of his deity. So, I mean, if you want to fall into that trap of trying to associate certain areas with good and bad, here's one little historical fact that that would go counter to that. Anyway, I mean, I don't think it's a legitimate argument, but I was having to deal with it because it was in the King James only literature. And then he played the audio of me saying that those who say the Sinaiticus was found in a trash can was lying, and then he was trying to disprove that. But I've already made a video concerning that issue, so you can go back and see that. And then of course he was always throwing out these this negativity about the Shepherd of Hermas and some of these other works that was found when they found Sinaiticus, which no, I don't believe they're inspired. But at the same time, he'll do that, but he has no problems with the fact that the 1611 has the Apocrypha in it. There's nothing ever said about that. I mean, if the King James 1611 was inspired by God, and they put the Apocrypha in there, then doesn't that insinuate that the Apocrypha is inspired? Anyway, so that was video 3. So hopefully I clarified myself if there was any from these seemingly questionable comments. Moving on.